Your faithful team is here, Isaiah, Tim, Mel, and Brian. Today we covered the film The Rocketeer from 1991, directed by Joe Johnson, starring Bill Campbell, not Billy Campbell.
But yeah, what is that about?
Jennifer Connelly is in there as well as Timothy Dalton and Alvin Arkin. I'm saying
Alan Arkin. And then most of the cast of the various Star Treks.
Yeah.
Including Terry O'Quinn. Shout out to Terry O'Quinn.
A whole bunch of Star Trek talk was done during this movie, but you know
Paul Sorvino.
It was the time, so I can't really fault them on that.
The dad from Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, Jonathan Kent.
Oh man,
relevance is relevance.
Eddie, what was it again?
We could do a whole segment just on Star Trek call-outs from
associations.
This one.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
But
with your support, we will.
Just ask for it. Tim will talk to you for hours about this.
Yeah. But in regards to The Rocketeer, we loved it. I think on a general all-around basis. Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot.
I would love for Isaiah to kick this segment off.
Yeah. This is like your
so
movie.
special to you.
Oh, see, like, it's tough. Like, what did I like about the movie? Like, pretty much all of it.
Okay, moving on.
It's obviously not perfect. But I mean, even watching it now, like, that definitely it's fun. It's 1938. It's
cheesy, but
acted,
a good cheesy.
Cheesy intentionally. It captures an era. The effects are a little hokey, but 1991, so forget about it.
That's a long time ago.
It was like 30 years ago, basically, at this point.
I was expecting worse, I have to admit. Like, going into this, I mean, Mel and I, we've never seen this movie before. I've not really even heard much about it, except when you guys have brought it up. And I would say that the effects are pretty good. Like, you know, it's early 90s, so there's definitely some leeway there, but holds up for me. Like, watching this, I really enjoyed it. I think there was no jarring moments with the effects anyway. I mentioned on our commentary track, if you want to tune in and listen to that a little bit more, I kind of make some comparisons in regards to this and Captain America the First Avenger, as they share a director. So
there's a lot of DNA between the two that's similar.
Yeah. Stylistically as well, I think it was great. I have to give a huge shout out to Timothy Dalton playing an evil actor that's a Nazi. Oh my god.
He played like Hydra Iron Man. It was cool.
Yes, and I loved it. We were just talking about his evil henchman Lothar as well.
Yeah.
The giant guy with all the
Of
prosthetics.
the Hill people.
Yeah. I mean, the prosthetics don't necessarily hold up all that well, but
At all.
Well,
that's the next segment.
The concept of him is awesome.
Yeah.
Concept is awesome.
Yeah, and I would argue just as Ang Lee's Hulk holds up in the dark, so does Lothar's
In the dark.
They really have some of the same tricks, don't they?
Yeah. they ease you in slow, like, you know?
And I really enjoyed Jennifer Connelly, like, not even just like in a
creepy
creepy normal way. I mean, like, she's got a good character in this movie.
No, she does.
And
She has an arc.
She did
She's
she
like
did great.
smart. She's take charge, efficient,
smashes some people in the
master
head.
of her own destiny.
Yes, she's never a damsel in distress, and I fucking love that about this. I think she, my favorite part is the moment where she finally gets to have a scene with Neville.
Yeah, she plays to her
Something.
strengths.
I can't remember.
Neville
Sinclair.
Fuckface. or-
Sinclair, yes.
Yeah,
She finally gets a
Sinclair.
scene with Neville
What a line.
Sinclair.
Yeah.
Oh, man, like,
It was
that
good.
was beautiful. I loved every aspect of that.
Yes.
Oh my god, so satisfying.
I liked all the different, the variation of sets, like the Bulldog Cafe, you've got the airfields, you've got, like, just the ballroom, like, everything.
Oh, the helmet. When you say that as well, I just think that helmet and everything worked really well.
The iconography.
Yeah.
It was like a golden skull with a
so
fin.
cool.
It was like a golden skull for flight. Right? Like instead of the bone getting thrown up, it was like 2001 all in a helmet.
Something made me feel like it should be underwater, but...
It would look like
the bug
Aquaman
eyes, I think, a
steampunk.
little bit.
Right?
But it's so cool.
Yeah, I agree. The Bug Eyes, there's a little bit of that callback almost to the old, I can't remember what they were, the old
Geiger?
diving suits.
Oh, yeah,
where
yeah.
They had the
Yes.
big
Diving
bowl
bell.
on their head with the tank on the back. You know,
Yeah.
there's a little bit of like
Always
that
kind of
in
reminded
there.
me of the Batman character Firefly as well.
Yes.
It looks a lot like
Yes,
that.
Very
Yeah.
much so. Yeah.
And Darth Vader.
Yeah.
It's like all in there. It's got the skull. Like, it's a very good design. I asked if it was like honoring the depiction in the comics, and apparently it is.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Pretty faithfully.
For those of you that are just joining us for the video log, little bit of history. Dave Stevens is the creator of the Rocketeer graphic novel, and he actually worked on The Flash with John Wesley Shipp.
Like the
TV
show.
The TV show back in 1990 to 91.
Wait,
and,
who's tuning in just for this? Go listen to the other.
Yeah, well, you know,
What are you doing?
check out the commentary track. But Danny Bilson and Paul DeMeo also worked on The Flash with Dave, and they are the writers of this, and I think they've done a really good job.
It's well written. I have no nostalgia for this movie because, like, I've seen it like maybe twice as a kid or something like that, and I'd probably seen part of it on like the Space Channel 10 years ago or something.
That
And-
surprises me. 'Cause
And I've been trying to find it on a hard copy for quite some time.
I've owned it for like the last 12 years.
Yeah.
It's in the Disney Vault. Is it going to be on the streaming platform when it premieres next month or whatever? But it's like,
Oh, the
seriously, like 10 years
suspicion
he's had
going
this?
on.
I've been looking for this.
It surprises me that you don't have nostalgia value for this, because I feel like this sits in a pocket that you like. Tim,
It does.
It was a good comic book movie from the early 90s, and that was hard to come by.
Yeah.
It's not
yeah.
comic booky enough. It like...
Oh,
it-
all right. I'm gonna cut you off there
Yeah.
before we get into
We're
that.
muddying the
Yeah,
segment.
yeah. Well,
All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
yeah. Do we have any final thoughts on what we really liked though before we go into?
The cast was great. We were
Fun
saying,
action.
yeah, good action most of the time.
All right, now I feel like this is gonna be a tough one. I'm struggling with finding
Things you didn't
some
like?
things.
I mean-
yeah, I gotta be honest here. Yeah.
I could go again. Just it does look a little cheap. Like it does look a little cheap. Like things kind of look like sets. But I mean that's again me just stretching to find something not to like about it. I gotta say, like
It's not fair to make you hate this,
I
then, eh?
really enjoy this movie.
Yeah.
It looks a little cheap at times because I think it was a little cheap. And I don't know. Like I don't know.
I think
That scene in the ballroom was supposed to be a lot bigger,
What was it?
but it got cut for budgeting.
Just lit differently. More fire! This movie needs more fire!
Wait, I was gonna-
I think that's a fucking great idea!
I
More
wish
fire.
that they'd committed to the silhouette thing with the henchman, like all the way, so that he was maybe revealed at the very end, his face, or like maybe you see, like I think even you said like seeing parts of him,
Parts of him.
but just committing to like
Malformed, you know, contorted,
yeah,
like,
and
exaggerated
you always
shadows.
see, and we did a lot of the time. You'd see the shadow before you saw him, which I loved.
In full light of day,
Very
he looks
foreshadowing.
ridiculous.
yeah. I mean, I think
Like, worse
If
than
we're-
Jaws, right?
yeah. To say something for sure, I think Lothar really worked well in shadow,
Yeah.
and then once he was in more light, it did have that Dick Tracy like very built kind of look. Almost, I think.
Plasticky.
To relate it to something modern day would be
Sin
the
City or
dwarves
something.
from the Hobbit series. Because of the increased frame rate, you could really tell that it was prosthetics and makeup that was on there, and that's kind of what this felt like. But
Yeah.
everything else for me, I feel like I'd just be being nitpicky. Like I got.
What if he was like a... Oh, that's more of a pitch. I'll save it.
But yeah, and like when he moves his mouth, it's like barely.
He
visible
laughed and it
mouth
doesn't move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the prosthetics were obviously again fairly cheap.
Even if it was like rubber bouncing laughing, it would be better.
And
Like,
they obviously took a bunch of
Yeah,
just
disgusting
slapped a bunch of
and disturbing.
prosthetics on a big guy, and they were like,
Yeah.
right.
And you know what? The thing that I find difficult about criticizing that, though, is I'm pretty sure they did that because they wanted to make him more comic book accurate.
Yeah.
So that is why I'm thinking that they've done that, because there's a very specific look in mind for that character, and so that's why it's done. So that I struggle with making that critique, because I think without doing more research, I'm making a huge assumption here, but like I feel like that's probably the reason why.
Can I go? I'll tell you what the root of the problem is. It's the lighting and the cinematography. I'm sorry. I know you were trying to do Spielberg. It's not Spielberg. Spielberg uses shadow and firelight and stuff, and I can't help but compare the nightclub scene in this to the scene in Marion Ravenwood's bar in Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it's firelight, and it's dark, and there's wind, and you see the atmosphere interacting.
Unfair.
It doesn't matter where it is. Like, it's here, it could be a breezy day on the piers and the beach.
Like, it does look a little, like I'm saying, like, it looks a little cheap. And it's obviously, Joe Johnston is, like, finding his...
It's his number 2 film.
Cinematic voice.
Yeah.
He's aping Spielberg a lot in this movie.
But it's too Casablanca. And not enough Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Going for Casablanca purely, rather than like, let's make it set in the time, but also let's shoot it differently. It's like everything's really well lit. Everything, you can see all of the action. Like it's going for, it wants to look like a movie made in 1938.
Right. Well, for me, that was a mistake. Like, and I get that it was fine, but I have no nostalgia. But like looking back, like I feel that's something that pulls this apart. Through the rose tinted lens.
Oh yeah, my opinion about this movie is not subjective at all.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree with you there, Tim. It didn't pull out for me. I mean, I understand where you're coming from.
You said cobwebs, dust in the barn.
Yeah, and I think if it was made more modern, then yes, that's what would happen. But I also think it's unfair to be like, oh, Spielberg would have done this because it's not a Spielberg movie.
It kind of is a Spielberg movie.
I argue with you on that front. So,
I think if again just to be like stupid nitpicky, I would have liked to have seen more of Los Angeles, 1938 Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. But that's definitely again a budgetary thing. Like they can't make like a lot of the movie happens indoors or in like fields,
in places like
so
isolated
like I
places.
get it. Like it's hard to make 1938 Los Angeles on like a small budget because like obviously again this movie didn't have a huge budget. It's a comic book movie from 1991 based on a property that wasn't Batman or Superman.
Well, still, like Secord could have taken Connolly on a date, gone out on the town. They could have gone to like the shitty nightclub to start, and then gone to like more of a jazzy nightclub or something.
That Bulldog Cafe is an iconic.
Yep.
Is that a place?
Yeah.
And I would argue with you that they even talk about that. Jennifer Connelly's character is like, do you always have to take me to the same old place? Like, I think what you're saying changes the story, and I think what they're doing with that... Here's the thing, this movie doesn't have a bad story for me as well, so, like, I can't critique that.
And the Hollywood sign.
Yes.
Yeah,
that was like some major calls to...
I didn't know that. That's so
Hollywood.
spooky.
About it being Hollywood land.
It was Hollywood, because
it was burnt down.
It was put up on the hill for a housing development. Actually, it wasn't even about being Hollywood. It was like a housing development, and I think, and then the land part of it burnt down or got. And it definitely fell into disrepair, and I feel like it either burnt down or they couldn't save the land part, or they couldn't save enough of the land part.
They sold that land, or somebody stole it.
Tossed the land. Don't quote me on any of this. This is me remembering a Wikipedia article I read once. But yeah, I would have loved to see more 1938 Los Angeles, but that's again just being very
Roger Rabbit shows.
I gotta find something to to say that wasn't great, but
which is also Spielberg.
I love this movie.
Look, okay. Here's the thing. Spielberg is such a big influence that I totally understand why that keeps coming into it. But I feel like I just had to say, it's not a Spielberg movie, so it's unfair to kind of throw that on it.
No, it's not unfair. I'm gonna rate Joe Johnston to the same scale that I would rate David Fincher and Ridley Scott and all of the greats.
No,
he's up there. So you get to. So beside you, this is not your best movie. I'm sorry.
But you can't rate him.
I have no nostalgia.
You can't rate him against not being them.
No, I can.
No, I mean, not doing what they do amazing. No one can do what they do, but...
No, they can do what he does.
Be like, I don't like what he does.
Movies.
But this does feel
Jumanji is great. I don't think Spielberg would have made Jumanji better than Joe Johnston. I think it was perfect. So I'm going to say, he's great. But just this movie for me, it was a lot of, I think, the wrong choice at a particular spot. I'm not crapping on your directing.
No,
I think,
it's so good. We've got a conflicting opinion. on the
Jumanji
panel,
is
so
your
yeah,
much
it's
better,
good.
much better movie, and one of my personal favorites. Easily in my top 10, and
All
on
right.
a good day.
All right, well let's jump on over to our next segment, and you can find out what we're gonna rate this out of.
So how technical do you need to be when you're discussing the rating system on back issues? Because
Are we ever really technical? I'm not 100% sure.
because we have one, but we're not entirely sure that
It's real catchy.
the guys that were eaten had necessarily consumed clams at the nightclub. If they have, well then our rating
could take
system
a
holds.
creative-
Carnivorous clams.
Carnivorous
Oh,
clams.
carnivorous clams. I like that.
We
I
like cannibal
that.
clams.
Yeah,
But
so-
no women were eaten by the giant clam at the nightclub.
And no clams were eaten by the clam.
No clams were necessarily
But
eaten.
we could just do, yeah.
Carnivorous clams
Carnivorous
is
clams.
the rating for the Rocketeer, shall we say?
Now we're missing the cannibal clam Holocaust joke.
Oh.
No, we didn't miss it.
Okay, who wants to kick this off? Who's
I'll go.
oh, good.
I have no
Wow.
nostalgia for this movie. I liked it more than a lot of the movies that we watched. This was a good viewing and it was a good movie. So I can't shit on it too hard. I will give it 3 carnivorous clams.
Oh wow.
It's a
Nice.
good. If I were a kid, I would have liked this a lot more. I saw it as a kid, but no nostalgia. But it wasn't bad. It was like played all the right beats.
Yeah.
It played the full classic story.
Yeah.
It had a musical number. It had a good, clear villain with clear motivation.
Sort of high-fived everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun moments. Good good mentor relationship. Good secondary characters. Like this is a good movie. It's firing on all. It's like a Honda Civic of movies.
What a comparison!
It'll-
Honda
it'll-
Civic of movies.
But it's so reliable, right? And that's why you'll
Okay,
get to
fair
go
enough.
on and soup your Honda up, right? With like a spoiler later, and you
Like
can
a
Jumanji,
Yeah.
Jumanji eyes, and then later Captain America eyes. Your movie.
all right, nice.
But this was the Honda Civic of Joe Johnston movie.
Nice, a good, reliable kind of.
Good, reliable, solid movie.
all faithful kind of
I-
deal.
Don't
Yeah.
disagree.
All right.
Cool.
Isaiah, Mel, either of you want
I
to go
wanna go
next?
last.
You want to
Oh,
go
Yeah,
last?
that's
okay.
fair. He should go last.
Well,
Okay.
I feel like Tim was going to be our most critical judge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
And
so as well.
that's possibly still true. I'm going to give it 4.
Wow.
4.
Hey, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mhm.
That is nice.
I liked it. I think my younger self would have really just finished that movie and gone, that was a good Sunday night movie.
Yes.
Off to bed now. No, we wouldn't have gone to bed.
Yeah. I think I feel like this is now going to be in my repertoire of movies that I would happily go back to and watch again.
If you can find a copy of it.
If I can find a copy of it, exactly.
No friend who has a copy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This movie is actually going to get my second highest rating on the show, and it's going to be a 4.5.
Wow.
For me. This was great. Like, you know what? So often, and the reason why I get such a high rating is because so often we watch these movies and there are these huge plot holes. The story doesn't make sense. The villain
Yeah.
doesn't have a good motivation.
Wasted 20 million.
Yeah,
A waste of
exactly.
20 mil.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a waste of money. What these guys did with the budget that they had, I loved every second of it. I think if I'd seen this as a kid, I would be as obsessed with this movie as I think what you are as well, Isaiah. Like, I wish that I knew more about The Rocketeer, because this is a really good movie. I would love to show like my nephews this movie, because I think they would love to see this. I think they would really connect with what's going on, despite the difference of time period and everything.
Hey, Disney,
Um,
take it out of the vault.
Yeah.
Like, what gives?
It's good. Like, it's really good. I really
This
enjoyed
vault
it.
thing has got to go.
I don't know what else to say about it, but
And
Yeah. Vault over
it's
it.
very like relatable. You know, you're just the average average sort of person who does not have your life together. Wouldn't
Yep.
you want to save the world?
Yeah, Bill Campbell, you mentioned it actually, Isaiah, when he's going up to the Zeppelin, how he's not fully, like, capable of what it is he's doing. I fucking love that. Like, he's learning and he's doing things
And
for
he
the
doesn't
right
have a
reasons.
superpower.
He doesn't have a superpower. He just wants to do the right
Someone trying
thing.
to
He's an
do a good
ace
thing.
test
Yeah.
pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a superpower in the 30s, right? It was cool.
Yeah.
The trifecta in here, Bill Campbell, Jennifer Connelly, and Timothy Dalton all have clear arcs. They all have clear direction. Like, blown away. Really, really like it.
Connolly's one of the best damsels that's not a damsel that we've gotten thus far in all of them, eh?
Jenny is a role I'd want to play as
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
which I
Like,
think
she was-
says a lot about her role.
She used her character as her special skills and like used her acting to best the villain and like it was all
She was
her
very
development
convincing.
was useful. Like it was
She was smart. She was
Yeah.
on the ball.
Mhm.
I can't give it a perfect score.
It's not a perfect
I
movie.
was wondering.
'Cause
Wow.
I gotta admit, I
We've
was
only
this
done a
close.
perfect
I
score
really
once
want to.
before.
Oh,
You can. We
I
won't stop you.
I gotta
but-
say, like, it isn't a perfect movie, but this was
Perfectly imperfect?
in our lineup. We would watch Star Wars, all three of Star Wars, because at the time there was only 3 Star Wars. We would watch like the Flash pilot episode, which we just thought was a movie. We would watch Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. We would watch The Rocketeer.
Superman 3.
Superman, Superman 2, Superman 3 and 4. Like, we would binge all of those and we would just watch it all. The Rocketeer was part of that because we just loved it, and I still love it. Like, watching it now, like, especially after watching all these other comic book movies we've done, like, this one doesn't fail in any of the ways that those other ones does. It's like,
Yeah.
it's doesn't overstay its welcome. It's clear, it's defined, it's got a good lead
You
character.
didn't say missed opportunities once.
There's basically none.
It's odd for me to say that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it hits the time period.
Am I a bit warm?
And I love me some Billy Campbell. The costume's great. I'm gonna go 4.5.
Ah!
Carnivorous
I'll
clams.
clap for that.
That's a lot of clams.
I want to give it 5, but I know that that's just me being a kid watching this movie again. So 4.5, just to be fair.
That
'Cause,
makes
like,
The Rocketeer our highest rated movie out of Volume
outside
2.
of and
Oh
Outside
my
of
goodness.
Logan.
Outside of Logan.
Yeah. The only other one that is, come close is Logan, I think, for us.
Wow.
Praise-wise.
yeah, and to think that like Dick Tracy came out in 1990 and this one came out a year later, and like just also 2 Disney movies, but just like best sit, similar time settings, like similar themes, gangsters, and all that stuff.
As much crap as I gave this for not looking real enough, it looks way more real than Dick Tracy.
Yeah.
And in the right ways.
And,
like, it's enough.
Yeah, it's like I really love this movie. I can't say more than that. I just really love this movie.
2 thumbs up, correct.
Wow, yeah.
Well,
That's it.
we're gonna have a hard time.
Was that Sitchell and
pitching this
Ebert?
guy.
They didn't get enough clams.
All right, pitching pitches.
Pitching it.
It's my favorite part of the show, but I'm gonna struggle to do this one.
I have basically a really succinct and clear idea
fantastic.
how to make this movie better.
Would you say then,
I
if you're
almost-
saying it, how to make it perfect?
Yeah, how to 0.5 it up. I think Disney didn't know what they had. They didn't throw a lot of money at it. So basically, I think really the only way that I would like make this better is to just throw a little bit more money in it, have a little bit more faith in it, and like like it's kind of a cult movie at this point because like not a lot of people have seen it.
That surprises me.
Didn't have like a huge budget or anything. So yeah, I would have just like if I was like a Disney exec in 1990 when they were making it, I'd be like, nah, throw some money at it, throw some good marketing
It's
behind
gonna
it.
be a hit.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
movie's gonna be great. It's gonna be the next Indiana Jones. Like they could have made 4 of these.
Yeah, they
Easily
easily
could
could
have made
have.
like 4 of these. So,
Easily could have, yeah.
I mean, it's a bit of a cop out, but yeah, like if I was gonna make it better, just a little more money, a little bit more polish, a little bit.
It would have been like a period
glamoury.
piece Iron Man,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Mm.
exactly. That's it for me. Like, I wouldn't change any of the casting. I would, like all of it else, everything else basically works for me. Just like throw a little more money at it.
I'm curious to know if playing with the Neville Sinclair character a little bit, what that would do in the sense of actually revealing to the audience very early on that he's working with the Nazis, and perhaps not have him go down the sleazy road with Jenny, although he was so good at sleazy, like so creepy, but what if he was actually really charming and really genuine and really doing a good job at playing that part? And she actually significantly started to develop some really serious, real feelings that were conflicting for her with Cliff. But meanwhile, we as the audience are like, oh my god, no, he's a Nazi! Just have that conflict for us as the viewer. But then, of course, her being the awesome character she is, she will see through it eventually and, figure it out and blow up his whole world. It's like literally.
The acting dynamic was super cool between them,
cool.
right?
It was cool.
There's a Batman villain, Clayface, who's an actor, right? Matt Hagen, and that would have been super
Wouldn't
cool.
Timothy Dalton have been a good
Clayface?
1992 Clayface?
Oh,
That
he'd
would've
still
been
be a good Clayface, right? Well, that'd have been super neat. And what if he was like playing up with that a little bit more? But anyway, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you want to go? Do you want me to go?
No, you go.
I'll go.
I'm still for. I've got something.
Let's make Batman and Clayface together. Call me. We'll figure it out.
Like a pitch?
Yeah, no. Mostly this, I wouldn't change too much. Like I said, like the movie really does work. I thought, again, just as a TV show, this would work really well. And I was saying for that kind of aesthetic of like a steampunk, Back to the Future Part 3 kind of Dracula feel, you could really have like, magazines that reload for the guns, I was saying during the podcast, and like you could really turn him into like a local folklore hero. You'd get the Captain America TV show if he'd stayed with the Howlin' Commandos. Is that who they are?
Howling Commandos,
right? That show you could have done with the Rocketeer, and I would do something more along those lines. And he's still the test pilot. They could be perfecting the various jetpacks. Then you could have a character that steals a jetpack. You do the slow reveal Nazis arc over the season. And then maybe you even figure it out, and then you have to send Jennifer Connelly into them. And the reason Timothy Dalton sold out could be like he's legit just wants to work for like Goebbels and be like their like media guy, right? So he's just totally self-interested, just wants to be like the face, and like doesn't care what. And so he's like working for whatever side, and then Jennifer Connelly would go in and have to be an actor walking amongst these people. And then you play that in with the Hollywood element and like the different sort of dark organizations that were using media and like how it's like a Cold War that exists with art and culture. And you could really work that in and boil it out over a show, and it would be like a little like Man in the High Castle and a little.
I think you're going for a very grittier stylistic thing.
I would like some cobwebs and some dirt and some dust.
Yeah.
And some stuff
fair
lived
enough.
in.
That's fair enough.
A little more Jumanji. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it just something. I mean, this isn't my character. Like, the Rocketeer for me is too army. I was saying he's not superhero-y enough. And so I crank it up then for me. If you want me to watch, I need that.
That's fair enough. My defense to that argument, though, would be that this is his first outing. So I don't think that he's meant to be too superhero-y, and that's what makes him more relatable.
So this was a pilot, like the Flash pilot, and then they built it into it. Then I'd be okay with that. But I'd want to see 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 episodes of this or something, and then it would work for me. But as it stands, like if you were just like he's only like this and he doesn't like have like a squirrel suit that he gets or like different things that he tries to perfect, she could be in it. I don't know. Who owns the Rocketeer? Is he floating out there in limbo? So they could technically roll the Rocketeer in alongside the Avengers.
Well, so he was done by a comic book, Dave Stevens. Originally it was Pacific Incorporated, I think, that it was released under. Then that was way back in 1982 was the first release of this character, and then later on, I think in 93, Dark Horse actually purchased the Rocketeer and started putting out different volumes, and they've sporadically put out little series every now and then. It's not something that's been a big seller, but it's got a bit of history. So they've always kept their finger with it and kept it kind of fresh, I believe, but for the most part it's in that gangster era. So
I forget, did they reveal in Spider-Man Homecoming Norman Osborn yet?
No.
What about Timothy Dalton as Norman Osborn, and then you give him the Iron Patriot, make him the president of the Dark Avengers? Is that who they become? And then he becomes. Is it Hammer or whatever he becomes?
The Shield becomes
becomes Hammer.
Yeah.
That'd be a great arc for like Avengers part whenever they go down.
78.
78.
I think if it was 1991 now and Timothy Dalton was the age he was, he'd be a great Norman Osborn.
Right.
But now I think he's
too old
for this
Too old.
MCU in particular.
for this MCU.
71.
Yeah.
Jeez, maybe he is too old, eh?
Yeah.
Because Parker's so young.
Yeah,
That's the
that
thing.
would be my one argument with that. But
But if it was
okay.
then, oh man.
it's a big sidebar we're going on, but it's okay. We'll touch base on that eventually. I think if I could throw in something that I would have liked to have seen in this movie a little bit more, there was a scene about 3/4 of the way through the movie between Alan Arkin and John Locke. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But Howard Hughes, PV and Hughes, and they're comparing the designs, and he's like, oh, PV's like, oh yeah, I built a helmet with fins so it could steer, and Hughes, oh, that's genius, yeah. I think I would have actually liked to have seen those two having more of a dynamic relationship from the start, and have it be that our Billy Campbell character was a test pilot for Hughes, and so that's how we could kind of tie things in a little bit more. That would probably be the only thing that I would throw in there. Timothy Dalton's character I love. I don't want to change that at all. Jennifer Connelly's character, I don't want to change at all. I think maybe just making a little bit more connectivity off the start would have been great. But that might change some of the identity of this hero. So, like, again, I feel weird about suggesting that because I feel like they were quite comic accurate with this, so...
Don't fix it if it ain't broken.
Exactly, it's not really broken, so I'm like...
It does sort of end with the implication that he's going to be flying Howard Hughes' airplane.
Exactly, yeah, so, like, I like that that's where they ended up, so I'm kind of like, do I really... I don't even know if that's a good thing to suggest as a pitch,
We
so...
may even delete this segment.
No, that's a good idea. There was an episode of Tailspin. Do you remember?
I said
Oh,
Cloud Kicker.
You did.
Tailspin.
That had this. It wasn't the spruce goose. It was the spruce moose.
Yep, the spruce
Right.
moose.
And it was like too big. And then Baloo the bear is able to fly it at one point and lands it. They could have done that with the Rocketeer, and it could have been all done in secret. And it like the technologies over the course of the season-long show, right? That slowly, then and it's all taking place in this small town, and you do a little Twin Peaks, so you get to know all the weird, eccentric characters that live in this town, that are like they build the and add more fire.
Yeah, I was going to say, just pitch your biggest bugbear.
More fire! That's the Rocketeer, friends and followers. As always, this is your
Yeah.
faithful back issues team, Isaiah, Tim, Mel, Bray, and after the side special, we go to Lawrence. Stay tuned. I think this might be the closing of
Volume two,
Volume
maybe,
2, hey? And we're going to be delving into some more Batman.
We've
heavy
teased it for 2
stuff.
seasons. It's finally time.
Yeah, this may not be. This may not be the last episode that
It
we
leads into it.
air before Volume 2 hits
Right.
your screens, but for
like
us...
to keep you on your toes.
Yeah,
we know
we'll keep
that
you on
the
our
internet
toes.
doesn't view things linearly.
Yeah.
So we're not going to play by those rules.
Well, you mentioned earlier, Tim, we're coming up to the 30th anniversary of Batman 89.
That's right.
Sure.
And we really want to jump on that. Isaiah has never seen it before.
I have not.
I don't think Mel has seen it before.
And I hold that it's
Yeah.
one of the best, if not the best, Batman movie live action ever made.
It's going to be great. We're delving
I think
into...
even maybe better than The Dark Knight. It'll,
Ooh.
like, going in, I might say
We're
that.
going to have to watch it.
We'll find out. Like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more back issues right now.
Yeah, that was a good one. Hey, good work, people.
People.
Rock on. What time is it?